And a crucial vote of confidence clears in Malaysia's parliament. The latest moves by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim to silence any charges of illegitimacy against both him as a leader and his unity government.
Mr. Anwar is the country's third premier to have braved a vote of confidence in Parliament. Lawmakers only held a voice vote, though, and no block voting was conducted, and that has prompted opposition leaders to raise concerns about the Prime Minister's actual majority. For more insights, we're joined by James Chai. He is visiting fellow at the Malaysian Studies Programme at IC's Yusof Ishak Institute. Mr. Chai, let's pick up very quickly on that. Voice vote, no block vote. You would think that given that this is supposed to be an exercise in silencing doubt, surely Pakatan Harapan or Mr. Anwar would have pressed for a vote-by-vote count for or against.
So what happened was that this proving of the numbers thing was a major issue leading up to this parliamentary session. So what was very interesting was that during the debate for this confidence motion, the opposition has actually switched gears. Rather than insisting for Anwar to actually prove those numbers, they were actually fine for Anwar to just move on from it. So they're saying that you're already appointed prime minister by the king, therefore just move on from it. We won't be, let's just get on to other issues. And therefore, I think when it came to the voting period, none of the MPs in the room actually called for a block vote. And therefore, he passed through quite easily through that test. But of course, what the opposition is actually using that narrative is that they're actually saying that because we do not know how many number of MPs supported Anwar, and therefore we cannot totally accept the legitimacy of Anwar Ibrahim, even though there were two previous motions that were quite similar, which is to vote in the speaker and deputy speaker. They've all passed through with nearly two-thirds majority and one exactly two-thirds before earlier during the day.
All right. In other words, Perikatan Nasional could use this as a tactic. But of course, in order to truly destabilize the Pakatan Harapan unity government, it probably needs to get Barisan Nasional to pull out of that coalition. And from your point of view, at least in the short term, that is not likely.
Yes. So in the short term, it is very unlikely that there will be a switch in government due to a few reasons, right? One of the main things that is holding this unity government together is this memorandum of agreement that they've made together just 2 days ago, essentially saying that you have to toe the party line in your respective coalitions, and that in essence has pushed through quite a solid foundation in which this unity government could operate. The second thing is that there is no real strategic reasons as to why they should switch over with the opposition, because they are already getting, Barisan Nasional is already getting disproportionate benefit in the current unity government, and therefore switching over is unlikely unless they could be offered more.
Okay, very quickly now, Mr. Chai. Sorry to cut in, because I want to pick up on the point of the Memorandum of Agreement that was signed last Friday. We've already had Zulkifli Ahmad, that's the MP for Kuala Selangor, coming out to say that is not legally binding. If it's not legally binding, what purpose does it serve to stabilize the current government? Yeah,
so the degree of legality or enforceability of the Memorandum of Agreement is something rather contentious, right? So to some extent, you can't actually bind all of the individual MPs as well as parties fully until you actually test it out in court, which means that there is a process of actually suing some of these people who defy the agreement, right? So to some extent, that legally binding nature of it is not entirely certain. However, it is also important to understand the additional function that it serves if it's not legally binding, which means that this is actually to build some sort of bridge to the anti-hopping law, in essence, transforming the allegiance of MPs based on parties rather than their individual stances. So what we have seen in the two previous governments was that individual MPs were allowed to go whichever way they wanted to, creating that level of instability. And what this MOA does at the very least is to transform their allegiance along party lines rather than their individual preferences.
All right, Mr. Chai, I'm going to combine my last two questions because we're running out of time. That's, of course, the point about strategic advantage for Barisan Nasional. But final question here. We are 1 month, 19th of December, 19th of November, 1 month from that elections where we saw a hung parliament for the very first time. Since then, we've seen negotiations about which coalition should form government, who should be prime minister, cabinet members, deputy prime ministers, all these steps taken by Pakatan Harapan or Mr. Anwar Ibrahim. Do you see him taking the right steps to ensure that Pakatan Harapan this time will not make the same mistakes it made in 2018?
So what is very evident was that in order to secure that level of stability and continuance in this current term, they have taken foremost steps, like you've pointed out, creating a memorandum of agreement, getting a confidence vote, securing anti-hopping laws effects within each party. Those were done as much as in a formalistic sense as possible to keep it secure. But the other part that you've alluded to is that in order for them to avoid a repeat of what happened in 2018, where the government only lasted for 22 months, is to also make sure that the policies are done quickly, reforms are done quickly, as well as communicated well with ample visibility of their work, which is something that is very evident in a lot of the minister social media channels, where they are speaking more directly to the people, showing their work, so as to dispel the notion that they are not doing enough to deserve to be in government. And therefore, with this formalistic as well as the substantial part of government, this would actually enhance their chances and avoid being a Pakatan Harapan 2018 repeat here.
Thanks so much for that. James Chai, looking back at a turbulent 1 month since G15. He's visiting fellow at the Malaysian Studies Program at IC's Yusof Ishak Institute. Thank you.